Hello everybody, we're back again with another Weekender, and this week I'm joined by Justin Free and Brother Lloyd.
Yeah, did you miss me, peeps? Did you miss me?
Well,
Of course I missed you.
Together.
Let's say yes.
It's always in the comments nowadays. They're reaching out for you and Warren.
That is true.
We're old news.
It makes us feel very upset and unwanted.
Well, it's a nice change to see where is Warren and where is Lloyd rather than why is Free not in their intro.
And now you've mentioned it, that will be the next time.
She is in the intro.
Yeah, I am.
In the intro.
I've said it. I said every single episode. I'm subliminally placed through every episode. Just smart again.
Makes sense.
Every episode.
And speaking of intros, that was a heck of an intro to kick off the show with.
Yeah.
The Showdown at Retribution trailer. So that's the new starter set coming for Wild West Exodus, and it's going to be a shiny and new 3rd edition as well.
They've added in all of the erratas to the book that's coming in the box, so it is completely up to date, which is really nice.
So this is a 2-player starter set. So we've got 2 factions. Who are they?
We have the Delightful Enlightened and the Terrible Union.
What? So I know who's taking what side then, yeah.
Well,
yeah. Well, Mr. Grave Robbing, sitting beside me there.
I'm saying nothing.
I think one of the big bits to notice, but one of the big things to note about that is I think it's all plastic, that starter set as well.
As far as we're aware, yep, it is a 100% plastic set for you and a mate to get into the game, and it's got everything in the box you need. So your cards, your tokens, your templates, all your dice, all just sitting there. Crack open the box, get the minis built, get some paint on them, and get gaming.
Yeah, a true let's club together, you and me, mates. Let's go in on this. Let's get playing type box set.
If you are planning on getting involved with a mate, we have something coming to help you out with that as well.
Yeah.
So we will be joining forces with Chris from War Cradle Studios, and myself and Justin will be going through the Global Gunslinger League, which is a title put together by Warren because he doesn't have to say it out loud.
It's alliteration, because we all had fun on the Lockdown Leisure League, didn't we?
Well, some of us did, some of us didn't. But kicking off in November, myself and Justin will be going through with Chris, and there'll be a whole host of videos coming out that will show you how to build miniatures, paint them up, play some intro games. Chris will be showing us what exactly we need to do in a course of videos to take the factions from the 2-player starter set and expand them into full posses so that you've got the sort of tournament legal sized games under your belt. So we're going to be going through, I think, 6 different steps on that. If you follow the path of conquest, it's going to be very similar to how we went with that.
Who's
this
who?
time. As alluded to earlier, the filthy union. He's always union. He's got a can of blue spray somewhere. I've got a can of blue spray, therefore I'm going to be the Union, I think is what he said.
No. Union have always been my favorite faction.
Any particular reason?
Honestly, they have big guns.
There you go.
I want to get a Rolling Thunder on the field at some point.
I've no idea what that is. Well, I know what that is because I played Rolling Thunder on the Neo Geo years ago. It's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up game. I don't know what that's got to do with this.
Sure, let's go with that, Jerry. It's fine. Just go with that. No surprises in your near future.
Well, for my Enlightened, thankfully, I've got myself a giant mechanical spider because I will be breaking out the Wiki Wah Wah.
Wiki Wah Wah West.
It's cool. I think I'm going to do like some build guides as well for anybody who's super new into the hobby.
Yeah.
And I think John was going to do some paint tutorials as well to get some schemes up and running.
We are literally going to take you by the hand and step by step drag you into the first steps of hobbying until you're a pro. So come Christmas Day, you'll be able to ruffle stomp anybody with the best of them, even if you've never picked up a dice or a miniature before in your life. That's how comprehensive this is going to be.
Yeah, and with it kicking off in November, that gives people time, hopefully, to maybe even get their box sets.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Due for release, I think last day of October.
Yes, I think pre-orders in October for sure.
Pre-orders
says in the trailer.
And released on, I want to say the 30th, because I think the 30th is a Saturday. So that's the release date. So you'll have a few weeks to get them. And if you do know what you're doing, you can already get stuck in. If you don't, then, we'll be coming shortly afterwards to help you build them, paint them up. And then, like I say, we'll have those sit-down chats with Chris to go through the best way to develop your posse and get them table worthy in no time at all.
On top of that, I think we're going to have some chats with Chris from Warcradle Studio about the design process and things like that as well.
Ooh.
I think that's in the pipeline, Justin, isn't it?
I've already sat down with Chris. I've got them in the can, but I'm just trying to not give anything away too early. There are exciting things coming, and it's some really interesting chats I've been able to have with Chris. So make sure and stay tuned.
Does he mention anything about the campaign booklet? Because I was looking back, going, "Ooh, there's a campaign booklet in there as well."
Well, I can tell you there's a campaign booklet, but that's about it.
Oh,
He is such a tease, isn't he?
Justin.
Shocking.
Treat him mean, keep him keen.
Speaking of being teased, you guys out there teasing us as a community at the minute because we're so close now to hitting that 100,000 mark. So if you're sitting on the fence and haven't bloody well subscribed, flip and smash that button to get your chance to win that bloody box.
Yeah, that or borrow your nan's phone.
It's always that. It's an option.
If you're looking to pick up a copy of Kill Team Octarius for nothing at all you need to do is be a subscriber when we hit that big 100k. And we're not far away from that at all. But shall we move on with the show?
Sure.
Take a look at our Indie of the Week. And this week, Justin, you've picked All Rolled Up.
Yes. This is a company that I found at UK Games Expo a few years ago. They were on our live stream. And honestly, it's something that I've been thinking about recently is we're always talking about miniatures, terrain. How about we talk a little bit about role-playing games? So this company does like some nice peripheral pieces for folks who like the role-playing games. And they actually do some stuff that's partnered up with well-established role-playing games that I think everyone's going to find really, really cool. But the key piece that they make is what they call the all rolled up product. So it's like a small, like rolled up fabric satchel piece that you can hold all of your mainstay components that you need as a role player and just carry it around with you. You know, just pop it in your backpack, pop it in your satchel, pop it in your handbag, off you go.
So this stuff here we're talking about then, Justin?
Yes. And what I love about it is there are so many different designs that these guys do, and some of them are absolutely gorgeous. I have one of these at home. I think it was a Fighting Fantasy one.
What's it look like inside? So obviously it is all wrapped up. It's all rolled up. But inside you get it obviously. What's all rolled up? What is to be rolled? What do you put inside?
So it rolls out, and you can see you've got the nice big graphic when it's all rolled out. Mm-hmm. And on the inside, you have like a bunch of little pockets, pouches, and stuff like that. I think Lloyd's one that he has picked here is like a single large pouch. Whereas there are other ones.
There you go.
You can see you've got spaces for your pens, little notepads, a little dice pocket, little token pocket, things like that. So it's really just a nice little thing that just right, how many times have you been hunting through your backpack, your satchel, whatever, and trying to hunt out all of the bits that you had brought along to your role-playing night? You know, this is just, it's in there, it's in the front pocket, there we go, roll it out, and it's all just sitting out in front of you looking pretty. And I really like it.
Bit of organisation for your role-playing game.
Mm-hmm. So what else do they do other than these mats? Not mats. What are these? Rolls, I guess you would call them.
It's an all rolled up is what they call it. And the other things that do, so they've got bit trays.
Oh, bit trays.
So they're little snap together trays, like I believe they're neoprene. And whenever they snap together, it literally just gives you a nice little tray.
Nice.
You hold all your token pieces together. So you're not going to roll into this, but you know the way some characters, they need a bunch of different tokens and stuff. And even for like board games and things, it can get really messy across the table with just piles upon piles of tokens. These you can just lay them out and just keep everything nicely separated. So I know some people, they like to just be able to pick quickly instead of just mushing through a pile of tokens.
It's handy they've got a whole variety of colors though, because then you can quickly see at a glance, oh, the green ones are that's this and the yellow ones are that.
Here's my health, here's my wounds, here's action.
That's a great idea. I love the way that it's portable in a way, because I think that's a great way about it being neoprene, is that you can snap it into place for what you want to do, and I suppose roll it all up afterwards for you to take with.
Yeah, so it's just like their dice trays as well, these neoprene dice trays.
Yeah, it's just
a smaller version.
But again, the dice trays are something that has become a bit of a standard, this style of a thing in our industry. And it's always just nice to see the different designs that some people throw onto them. Because, fine, it's nice to have a dice tray, but you want a pretty dice tray, don't you?
Of course you do.
Come on, there has to be a pretty dice tray in here that you would want.
Oh, they've got
Elizabeth.
They've got official ones as well.
Yeah.
They have a range of people from Chaosium through to Free League, Ulysses Spiel. Pathfinder, Cubicle 7, all sorts. So if you're a fan of the like I am, then there's a ton of stuff in from Chaosium. Or if Vessen from the guys at Free League, they've got that as well, along with things from the Flood and the Loopy Tales. So
I've seen a lot for
artwork.
I've seen a lot for Call of Cthulhu as well. They've got a bit on there as well.
Oh man, I've just seen this.
Well,
it's not particularly this that I want, but it makes me want one that has the map from Time Bandits in it now.
In that case,
that would be amazing.
Divert temporarily from the dice trays then.
Yeah.
If you go up to their book section, and see the very top left, the D sanction.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So these guys are actually I think the publisher / supplier for this. So this is a game of Elizabethan mystery and issues. So you've got that dice tray, obviously, but they've also got the coin, and they've got a big felt map of London. So if people aren't aware, John Dee was one of Elizabeth's spies.
Gorgeous.
People may not know the name, but they may know his code number, which was 007. That's where it was stolen from. So John Dee was an interesting fellow. Also, there's a whole mystical side of things as well, hence the Enochian symbol that they've available as a coin. And I really like the fact they've got like a felt map of London as well in that period. I
like felt maps as well. Felt maps are a little different. There's always something like a cloth bound or a felt map that just makes it special.
I mean, I've no idea if that is required to interact game-wise with all the things, or if that's just something wacky and nice to have sitting beside the table when you're playing. But it certainly offers up a whole host of...
Hey, face masks as well. Keep them with the times.
Honestly, I think... I'm not sure 100%. These folks may have been involved with the one that you got at UK Games Expo with the big dragon on it.
Oh.
I think they may have been involved. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that.
Oh, see, these are nice. Yeah. I remember seeing these at UK Games Expo.
Are these 3D printed?
Yep, they look like they've been run off the filament printer.
Yeah, 3D printing cost.
The levels in it.
Filament. Oh, you can actually see the dice as they tumble down then.
That's nice.
Okay. Oh.
Like a helter-skelter.
The tension.
All you're missing is a tiny little sack for your dice to sit on as they slide down.
Right.
What? Oh, that's a good point. Like, they should have had this raised up on a plinth. As much as I hate plinths, if you put that on a plinth, then you could put that beside your dice tray, and then you could have your dice rolled down and into your tray.
So what, you want like a little mini crash mat?
Yeah.
Yes. Little ball pit at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
So it looks like a slide.
For anybody who can't stand the sound of dice, what you playing board games for in the first place, you're screwed. But if you really can't stand the sound of dice, the neoprene mat sucks it up. You don't get that table crash.
I do like the idea that they do stuff that's with other games. So if you're playing Soulbound, you can get the matching stuff from these guys to keep it all themed on the tabletop.
Yeah.
DM. And I think that maybe makes a nicer player experience whenever it's all themed from the DM. Everything he's using is themed to the game you're playing, and everybody else can do whatever the hell they want.
Ooh.
Got a lot of dice as well, haven't they?
Yeah, they do some stuff with the folks over at Chessex who do some absolutely gorgeous like poly dice and regular dice sets.
Chessex and Q Workshop as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they're essentially the two main people for your go-to for...
Yeah, I've got quite a lot of Chessex dice.
Mm-hmm. Which means they rack in at different prices.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like a nice set of cheap polyhedral. And some of those are nothing like a nice cheap set of polyhedrals.
Exactly.
When you're going a two-tone one for a specific company and they go, this matches our sky motif. You two can pay £20 for it. Go, can you though? I'd rather not. Just have 3 sets of two-tone from somebody else. It's Modifius's D6 for...
it's nice that they do bespoke stuff. That's really nice. You don't necessarily have to go straight to Modifius and buy it on their website. Or that's very cool.
Just being able to get things like that separate. Because if it's a component from a game you really, really like and you just want to have lots of it for all of your gaming, you can just go and grab all of that.
just looking at this, I'm like, oh god, I have to go and have a look, see if someone can do me some custom dice, because now I want the cubes from Terrahawks.
That'd be amazing.
That would be
And then I want some of those round dice that are spheres for the spherical guys from Terrahawks as well. Oh,
I see. What I kind of want is a set of dice done as the companion cube from Portal.
Ooh, that's cool, Justin.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
No, overall, they're a really nice little company. They do some really cool stuff, and some of the partnerships they have, it really lets folks, theme their role playing nights and keep it, just all on. I hate to put it this way, but that's the only way I can think to say it. Keeps it on brand.
It keeps
certainly
on the tabletop, does it? Yeah. I agree with you, though. I certainly agree. I think it's a really nice thing for GMs, especially, like you said before, Justin, having everything thematically on the table. Just literally imagine walking into a place, starting up a game, and you've got everything themed, your screen, your dice tray, your map, everything with all the same thing. And I think that's lovely. I think that's a really nice way to create a world just by using your accessories.
I didn't realise they did the Free League maps as well in felt.
Nice.
Because I have them in paper form. But it's not something I particularly want to roll out on a regular occasion.
Roll out the felt map.
Cried.
I love myself a good map.
Yeah, I know. Something special about a map.
Especially handy if players are being introduced to a completely new game. You can at least give them a rough heads up of where things are.
Yeah, you feel grounded in the world whenever you see it. And you're told, you're by this mountain range at the foot of it. And guess what? Your quest is at the top. Go climbing.
Go have fun.
Sweet. Well, definitely something to check out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's time for the news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
All right then, so kicking things off for the news this week is Games Workshop and some news from Aeronautica Imperialis that the Wrath of Angels starter set is dogfighting its way onto a tabletop shortly. So this is a new starter set featuring the Adeptus Astartes and the Eldari, or Space Marines and Eldar for people of an age who don't want to try the tongue twister every time.
Or who just want to say it right.
That too. So the box set will contain everything you need to get playing with these two new factions on the tabletop for your games of Aeronautica Imperialis. So you get your rulebook, all the tokens you need, and then 2 sets of miniatures. The rather sleek and sophisticated Eldari force is made up of Nightwing fighters and some Phoenix bombers. And a nice touch on the Nightwings is that you can have the wings swept forward or backwards. So you can lock S-foils in attack positions. Pretty sure that's what they're called.
We'll go with it. We'll run with it.
Then for the Adeptus Astartes, they have the Xiphon Interceptors. So a fighter class Space Marine flyer, and also the Storm Eagles, looking better proportioned, I would say, in tiny scale than they are in 28mm, where they look like just a brick with wings. So a ton of firepower on the Storm Eagles, which you're probably going to need, because I imagine you're not going to be hitting particularly often, but when you do, you'll be looking to take people down. Another thing that they're releasing, or in this case re-releasing, are the accessories and extras for Aeronautica Imperialis. You have all of the ground assets, which haven't been around in a little while now. So if you're looking to get your hands on those, I don't know if they're going to be a mainstay or if these are going to be another limited grab them while you can. They didn't survive much contact with the enemy for the first round of Aeronautica Imperialis, so I can't imagine these are going to be sticking on the shelves particularly long. But if you want to sort of 2.5 your tabletops, remove the tokens and replace them with some nice gun emplacements, then it's worth picking up that asset pack. Apart from all of that.
So just before we go, so does this come with the tokens and then you just
pop? It comes with tokens, yes.
So these sort of things here, and then you can replace them with these set-on bits then?
Yeah.
Yeah. So each pairing that they've done so far for Aeronautica has had that in it. So I don't know. I quite like how the Space Marines look. Not so much a fan of Eldar, but I never was a fan of Eldar.
I mean, the Vampire would be nice to see as well, but the Nightwings and the Phoenix Bomber, they're both classic Eldar shapes.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Jez never bothered sort of redesigning those. They were good enough 30 years ago and they hold up to today. It's the difference between fashion and style.
It's nice to see some Aeronautica or Imperialis releases. I mean, the last couple of ones have been on Forge World as well, and it's been quite a while since we've got some new stuff. So it is nice to see the releases making way.
On that Eldar thing, I'm gonna side with Jerry on this. I think the Eldar are almost timeless in their look. In fact, I think they're one of the coolest things ever to hit 40k.
They're just so sleek. No harsh, flat brick-like bits on them.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I like a brick with engines.
But like you say, Jay, I think you hit the nail on the head. They are a timeless design, in so much as they don't feel dated. Whereas some of the Space Marine stuff, you can look at and go, "I feels a bit dated."
Yeah, especially I mean the Snoopy dog for the Space Wolves, in particular. I don't know who was doing that or why they thought that was a good idea for a flyer. Haven't seen that one crop up yet in Aeronautica, but I can't wait to see squadrons of flying dogs' heads coming at people. But that's more of a joke thing. Whereas the Phoenix and the Night Wing bombers, they just look great. So sleek. No big flat boxy edges on them.
No
bricks.
Well, I tell you this. I think if memory serves, I was talking to John recently, and I think the oldest miniature currently in the GW range is actually the old Eldar Guardians. I think it's about 20 years old.
No, the oldest is the Viper jet bike. The Guardian's got a resculpt probably about 20 years ago, to be fair. But the Viper and the Falcon are still both as they were in the 90s.
Yeah, fair enough.
Although the Falcon did get an upgrade sprue at one point to allow you to make some of the alternate variant turrets on it. But otherwise, they have existed for 3 decades because
just because
they don't need changed. They work.
Who needs to evolve? Who needs that?
No, it's just enshrined in the canon of Workshop. This does not get touched. You do not redesign this. It was perfect then. It's perfect now.
Exactly. Apart from that, there are also the aircraft aces card decks. So if you're planning on playing the Adeptus Astartes or the Eladari, then you can grab those to add a bit more fluff and flavor to your forces, and also just roll face across the board with your ace pilots in the various flying bricks or sleek craft.
I'll tell you what, though, it's just reminded me looking at this picture how much harder it is to paint the Eldar than like the Space Marines. Whoa, sleek panels, slopes and everything, because you're really trapped to try and use a washer and you just get nastiness. It's nasty.
Big flat panels have always been a curse for washes for me.
Yeah, they're curse for everybody.
But it's even worse, big curvy panels, in my opinion.
There's a debate for you.
Contrasts need to be thinned, and a couple of thin coats. Don't blob it on. But you can, there are ways and means around it. You can definitely do the job if you need to. And Eldar always look great. Just spray them all black. Do them both way. Black and yellow. All you need.
Bumblebee Star.
Don't do Samhain or Samihani, as we used to say. Red and black. I mean, that's much more irritating to paint. Especially coming up to Halloween.
Exactly. Right in time for spooky season.
Yeah, spooky season. But anyway.
Speaking of spooky things, I think we've got some D&D stuff coming up on this running order, don't we?
We do indeed. There are some new expansions coming, being gift setted up, as announced by Wizards of the Coast last weekend. So they had their sort of 3-day long, I have no idea what they call it, whether it's WizardCon or
it's an event
or something, but they had a 3-day event where they were talking about what's coming. And a couple of things that are coming are these new rule expansion gift sets. So they'll contain everything you need to move on from the starter box and expand into the full world of Dungeons and Dragons. The box set will contain, apart from your GM screen, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and a new book, Morden Keenan Presents The Monsters of the Multiverse. That's a mouthful right there.
Monsters of the Multiverse.
So Tasha and Xanathar's books have already existed. These are just new versions of them. But the Monsters of the Multiverse is a new book with essentially a monster guide or bestiary in there of 250 monsters that have been tweaked to sort of bring them in line, including the spellcaster monsters, which were always a bit of ache for GMs to actually use against the NPCs particularly well. Having casters is always a bit of a pain, and they've sort of gone and tweaked and streamlined the rules to make the casting less bookkeeping-y. Because when you're GMing, you don't want to be having to spend ages flicking back and forward and trying to work out the best way to deal with people, especially if you're chucking a load of things like Rakasha.
And then the other picture is the same stuff, but in a different style, is it?
It is. So that is I believe, a limited edition. So it's an art version. All the books are the same, but the wraparound art on the GM screen and the slipcase are, say, more classical, more sort of less in your face. I quite like the fact that they've gone with that plain white cover with just a single image in the circle in the middle.
Let me do a flick back and forth.
Yeah, rather than having the full wraparounds that they have on the others.
I really like that. I love how they're doing a lot of the alternative arts at the moment. So the recent Beyond Witchlight campaign book had an alternative art as well. Same price. I'm not sure if these will be any different, but just two different covers completely. One was, the one that we just saw, the one in black, versus the one that's all themed up to the campaign. So it looks like maybe this is something they might be doing going forward, just having alternate covers.
I like it because it looks like it looks like an actual set of related books. Yeah. Although these all have the same design style, because of their completely different color covers, even though it's the same artwork style and stuff, you can tell it's a set, but this just ties it together and goes, it really is a set. And look, it came out of this box.
I think the plain white is just a more attractive looking book.
It's gorgeous.
You're looking at better. It's not as busy and assaulting to your eyes. I look at that and it's just like, oh, look, is that a beholder? I don't know if that's a beholder. And you have to take a second to go, yeah, that's a beholder.
It's a big beholder coming right at you. Cleopatra. Yeah, I like the wraparound that they do. Well, they're not actually wraparound, but that sort of full color splash that they have on their D&D books. But if you're going to be getting this as a set, if you don't already have the initial two books and you're thinking about picking up the trilogy, I think getting the sort of alternate art cover is a nice way of doing it.
If you have someone who's just getting into D&D, say they've picked up that, the essential set, the starter set, this could be a nice next step up for them as a little bit of a gift to pass along to them.
Yeah. I see there's some sort of video in here as well.
There is.
But I've just noticed that it's almost 9 hours long.
It's quite a long one, yeah.
It's one of several 9-hour-long videos they had from their essentially convention that they hosted online.
Is this a live stream stuff or what is it?
Yeah, D&D celebration. They do one most years with and they have a lot of community stuff. They celebrate what's going on in the community with handing out awards, and you tend to find out what happens for the future and where it's going and whatnot.
So, like all big conventions or sort of celebrations like this, there's always some big news coming, and in there they do talk about a new edition of the game that will be coming in 2024. So it's a few years out yet. But this has been sort of a collaborative effort between the D&D community and Wizards. They sent out a questionnaire a while back and got people to essentially submit their responses to certain parts of the gameplay and that sort of thing. And with the feedback they've got from the actual players who have pushed through and been running these games, they've been able to go, well, develop the next set of rules, so 6th edition essentially, with that in mind, taking that feedback into account and hopefully making for a more straightforward gameplay for new players and veterans alike. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how they go about doing that and what comes in. But from what they say in that video, it's more of a tweak and a streamline rather than a complete rules overhaul. And the books that are currently available, so the 3 books in that expansion or in that set we were looking at, all will be completely valid for the new edition when it comes out. And over time, I imagine they'll revisit things and upgrade things, but it'll be fascinating to see what else we get. I think the Dragonlance issues that they'd had with Wise and Hickman have been ironed out as well. So maybe people will be diving back into the world of Dragonlance with the new edition. But there's an awful lot coming from Wizards of the Coast for D&D, as always.
Yes.
It's nice to see that they have their eye on the future as well, but it won't be a complete ground up rebuild, so nobody needs to worry about having to turf all their shiny new books into a bin
Yeah, don't. I kind of as soon as I heard that there was a new edition, I was like, didn't we just go into 5e? I've got to learn all of this again, but it's fine. Yeah, we're getting there. It's good to know, but as you said, it's good to know that the future is there as well. We're not just being teased stuff month in advance or 2 months in advance. We can see that the game that we're invested in has got quite a long time span in it as well. So that's always nice to hear.
Be good to see.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, Free.
Well, I've got 3 bits of advice that would not go down well for the youth of 2021. So we can either let's summon demons, or don't talk to strangers, or let's dig for treasure. So some of you might remember Stephen Rhodes' artwork from a series of activity books.
Oh, this
from
is
the
leading.
80s and 70s.
I was wondering what the hell was going on there.
Oh, see what I did there? I was leading in the theme, yeah. But I don't know if you knew about the activity books that were around in the 70s and 80s, and they were kind of like the black and the white and the all strange looking pictures. And Cryptozoic Entertainment not last year had a successful Kickstarter campaign. I can't words today, guys. And they're ready to release 3 new titles, and they're coming out on the 28th, so should be out now. But they're out. They're out. Ignore me. These games are out. So there's more nostalgic titles making their way to the tabletop. So they are called Let's Summon Demons, Don't Talk to Strangers, and Let's Dig for Treasure. So they're all 2 to 6 player games, and they've got different experiences themed around the famous work of Rhodes. So short setup time per game. Each game's got 3 different goals and objectives to meet, and it's completely in theme with the title. So what do you think you're going to do when you don't talk to strangers? What do you think you do when you don't summon demons? So there is something very in. So you utilize cards and resources and Let's Dig for Treasure in like a push for luck aspect. And they dig their way through stacks and interesting objects that lurk under the dirt. Summon for demons, the player becomes demon summoners, and they have to fight for their chance in racing first. And the last one as well, From Demons to Dig In, the last one, Don't Talk to Strangers, takes you out to space, taking children out of school and into an abduction before the whole neighbourhood is diluted with strangers. So it's just in time for Halloween. If you are looking to get something spooky out on the table that's not that difficult as well, the upcoming titles from Cryptozoic are going to be just about ready for Halloween.
All 3 of them are different styles of game as well, and it's not just they've latched on to a card game and then just reskinned it 3 times. You can pick all of them up and have different experience with each one.
They're all different. So the first Let's Dig for Treasure is more of a push for luck. You're utilising more cards in Summon for Demons as well. You're not necessarily using your dice as much. You're using your dice, your resources and tokens. So they all have different themes based around the title themselves. And I was worried the same as you, Jerry, that these would just be reskins depending on the artwork, but they're not. They're all individual games that we'll do what I need to do. So it looks quite fun as well. It looks a lot of fun for different players. And again, it's another board game hitting that nostalgia mark. I was wrong. 2021 was not the year of the dinosaur. It is the year of nostalgia.
I gotta admit, I kind of digging that. It's
cool, yeah.
This Peter and Jane look that they've got going on with this retro art. Let's summon demons. All the cutest little kids you've ever did see.
You can get them on T-shirts, which is where I first became aware of them a while ago.
I was about to say this because a couple of weeks ago I was up in Belfast and I saw these in a store and it was just like, those are really cool. And I'm kicking myself going, I wish I had bought it, because then I could have whipped the hoodie off and went, ta-da, fun.
I know. Oh, I think they're great.
Yeah. And the most frightening of all demons is Romeo.
Yeah, this one back here. Look at that.
What a creepy kid that he is.
Yeah, Romeo. Yeah, petrifying. But yeah.
Not Rotten Regan.
No, definitely Romeo.
No, they're all absolutely. But they all look like a lot of fun, as I said. There are loads more. I'm really interested in seeing where this goes as well, because Rhodes' artwork spans far. So there's loads of different types of games that he could dip into as well with the Rhodes. I know that there is some other odd ones out there. So if you are aware of Stephen Rhodes' artwork, let us know in the comments.
I'm going to have to go and look into this. Because see these kids, look how happy they are while digging up there.
I know. It's adorable. Have you not seen these before, Lloyd?
No, not really.
Type in Stephen Rhodes. And there's loads of them. There's like, don't do this, do that. Yeah, there's absolutely loads. There's Sell Your Soul and yeah.
But
I think
nonchalant. The way
one
someone
of
was-
my favourites was my first knife fight. I think that was my favourite, and it's two kids
What?
on the front, like with knives. Yeah, they're mad. They're bananas. These they're Stephen Rhodes stuff, but it's pretty cool to hear them
It's
turn into board games.
It's exactly
Maybe-
what we used to get in the 70s and 80s. Children's books.
Maybe we can look at this stuff on the XLBS show on Sunday then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I got to put it behind the paywall though, because I've no idea what's going to come up on screen.
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
Wise idea. Forward planning.
But moving away from the weird and wacky world of retro board games
Mhm.
and into the more historical and serious nature of tabletop wargaming, Wargames Atlantic have announced 2 new sets. So they've got one coming for the World Ablaze, which is their World War II range, which currently I think only consists of partisans, and maybe the French will slip into that as well when they come out shortly. But the Panzer Lehr, so the epitome of what the German army was going to be moving forward, the tank demonstration company, are going to be hitting the tabletop. So these were essentially elites, but also the best equipped, and how the army would have rolled forward post 1944 when they were sort of created. Unfortunately, they were more or less created right at the end of the war. But
If you were going to do a bit of Weird World War, then these troops here could be the ones then right from the tail
way
end.
to go. Yeah, there were a few things that sort of set the Panzer Lehr apart, which was apart from the organization and how they were going to be on paper, the uniforms. They all had the short tank style tunic rather than the standard Wehrmacht sort of longer affair, so it stops mid-waist, even though it was in field grey. And the sprue itself has a few interesting bits and bobs on it, so there are some pieces there that would work for tank crew as well, so if you've got dismounted tank crew. Also, you can definitely tell these are Germans. The very top left there, you've got a hand with 3 fingers, and that's how you do 3 in Germany. Not
No
like that.
way.
Well, I only know that based on Inglorious B****, where
That
he
not
ordered
reverse.
3 whiskies like that, and then everybody got shot because of it. So I'm assuming that is a little
remember that now.
homage to Tarantino's film. Or,
See, I
you
thought
know,
it was that for the German 3.
No, that's if they've had something shot off.
well, yeah.
Missing a couple of fingers, you know.
Very bad deaths of fantasy.
Every sprue gives you enough to do 5 with rifles, a couple of Panzerfausts, one sort of mounted and one unmounted. There's 2 MG42s and 3 MP40s,
Nice.
and a couple of pistols and potato mashers. And a nice thing they've done with this, which I think is the first one, is that the pistol and grenade are available. There's a pair of each, one left-handed and one right-handed. So not all of your grenade chuckers are throwing them with the same hand, which is nice for change. See them if you scroll down there at the bottom of the sprue.
Mm.
So there we go.
Oh, yeah.
And I like that. I like variation, especially when it comes to chucking grenades at people's heads.
I do need to
Because
make a small water
comes a bit
slide
static.
decal for this set. Just so I can put Jerry's face on the jerry can.
Right. There's no use to hand paint that on. That's the way to do it.
Definitely
Why limit yourself?
definitely worth taking a look at then if you're into Weird World War, because what I find with the Weird World War ranges is they make the troops too weird for me too quickly.
Yes.
I'd prefer you weird up the vehicles and stuff, but left the troops very much just as troops interacting with all weird vehicles and stuff.
Yeah, I get that.
Just maybe grab some laser guns to pop onto them.
No, not even that.
No.
I just think the troops can stay as they are. Like,
Yeah.
where are we now? We're 2021 and we're still shooting bullets.
Yeah, it makes sense. You don't need to have, if you're going to have something particularly big like a laser for Weird World War, it's more likely to be sitting on a vehicle anyway, because I imagine battery packs or power sources would be enormous.
Laser tank.
Yeah. But it's strange talking about Weird World War, because even though it's not on this page, the next part comes from a sculptor called Michael Singh. And he has his own website called Machination Studios, which is mostly 1/35th scale large resin pieces, but he has done a couple of 28mm, so sort of 1/48th, and they are Weird World War. They're walkers, big armored tripod things for the nations of World War II. However, he's partnering up with Wargames Atlantic to explore the warring states of China, which is only just been announced. So
Nice.
we haven't seen a huge amount yet. This is the sort of the work in progress, although when it comes to actually putting the sprue together, you may find that some of these pieces may have to be left off or ratios will change. So it's not 100%. You will definitely get all of these per sprue, but based on what they've done already, you'll get a fairly good collection of pieces to make the warring states, or the sort of early Imperial Japanese, the proto-empire. There's an very interesting video with Michael where he explains where they fit in essentially our timeline, because it's an area that isn't hugely explored. When this was happening, it was a period that was sort of the Peloponnesian Wars, so the Persians invading Greece. That is the same time period when these warring states were kicking off amongst each other, and they've got a really distinct look. So people will know the Terracotta Army. That is this sort of period and look, and the hope is to have multiple box sets going forward, depending on how the range is sort of taken up by people. So if you're interested in the ancient Chinese, then you can hopefully, well, you will get this armored box set, but then if the uptake is big enough, if there's enough of a community sort of build behind it, they're hoping to do chariots and cavalry and unarmored troops as well. So he explains in detail where he's come from a design point of view. The choices he's made, things like the lamellar shoulder pads there, are actually going to be separate, depending on the time period and archaeological evidence. They may or may not have had those.
Yeah.
And with so many different states to build, you can also then build to a particular sort of faction. It's strange that there is so much surviving detail from this period when you compare it to European and the sort of Mediterranean warfare that is probably more common on our tabletop. There's a lot less detail about the weaponry and artifacts from ancient Greece and from Persia than we have from China. There are a lot more actual archaeological finds and representations in artwork than we have, even though it's less played. So it's great to see somebody actually exploring this for once and going in there. He makes the case for the various sizes of things like the longbows and how they would be used, the various types of weapons that are going to be in the box. So yes, there'll be hand weapons and spears, there'll be the large crossbows, but there'll also be, I can't remember the name of the hooked weapon, but he posits that it's possibly because there were so much chariots and chariot warfare used that the reason they have that, it's like a spear dagger or a hooked dagger or something like that. And potentially it was used to hook people off, like a halberd would be in medieval Europe. So actually yank the drivers out of the back of the chariot or foul the yokes or cut straps, that sort of thing. And that's why it's so long, with that unusual sort of pickaxe-like shape to it. But it's fascinating. Only the last sort of 5 or 10 minutes is actually about the miniatures. The initial sort of 15 minutes of that is just the history, where they came from, the time period it fits into, and the various aspects of it. So if you haven't looked at the Warring Kingdoms before, then it's definitely one to have a look at and just run through the video just to see exactly what was happening, because the advanced technology of China and that area is well known. People always talk about them developing things so much faster and earlier than the European and Western side of the continent, but we rarely explore it on the tabletop. So the fact that Wargames Atlantic have partnered up with Michael to do this is fantastic, and it shows that once again they're exploring those less explored periods and places in history. So we're not just seeing the umpteenth Greek unit on the tabletop or a 25th Roman. You're seeing things in a similar time period to the Greek and Punic Wars, but in an entirely different style of play. And for Mongol players, if you want to start throwing them up against sort of the Chinese states, then you can do that as well. So Nice overlap. You could even
That'd be
throw
cool.
it against Alexander and his Macedonians. They didn't quite get there. They ran out of puff in India. But if they had, who knows what we would have seen.
A lot of what if.
It'd be cool because I watch documentaries and stuff about the Silk Road and whatnot on Discovery and things like that and History Channel and stuff. And you're like, oh, ancient China, that's really cool. And then you go out looking for stuff. You're like, no, there's not that much out there.
I think
Is there a particular reason why that there isn't? It's just untouched because it is. I've seen
Eurocentric,
like you, Lloyd. I've watched documentaries on it, and I find it quite odd that there isn't. I feel like there's some more obscure miniatures out there, if anything. But yeah, good to see that he is joining in.
Oh, I'm sure people will tell us in the comments. Well, you've missed this, and you've missed this, and you've missed that, and there's this Lloyd, and there's that Lloyd. So how can you dare say there isn't many out there? I'm just saying there isn't enough.
No, there isn't a huge amount, and certainly not in 28 mil. These do look like they'll match in quite well with Watchful Eyes Studios from America. They do a range of both historic and fantasy ancient Chinese. So you have things like terracotta golems and stuff alongside the actual chariots and regular infantry. So getting a plastic box set to sort of bulk out the stuff on the tabletop's always good. Taking a look then at a Ticket to Ride free.
Bit of short news from Days of Wonder and Asmodee because they're going to be teaming up to do some charitable deeds. Okay, so you've got some customization for your next game of Ticket to Ride. So collaborating with Breast Cancer Research Foundation brings Ticket to Ride Play Pink. So what will include is a full set of locomotives for players to swap out their base game. So I might as well say it now. Why would you not swap out something as boring as brown for a pink set? I just need to know. Like, I don't know why you keep brown in your game when you can have pink. But anyway, so the CEO of Asmodee is keen on paving the way for more charitable stuff to come into. So look at more deeds incorporated into our game system. So this might be something that might be happening more in our industry as well. So it's another one that's set to come out in October. So they'll be able to make, this is working as a mini expansion for $5. So it is a US release. So Days of Wonder have confirmed it is non-profit as well. So $2 for every Ticket to Ride Play Pink is going to US Breast Cancer Research Foundation. So I think that's pretty cool. So I really find it really nice when publishers release charitable products that make subtle changes in the game. So I know fair enough, they don't make any rules changes, but you do have that ongoing support on your table and a continuous reminder for breast cancer awareness. So
yeah, and you can get rid of those boring brown trains.
Exactly. Who would want brown?
I'm sure there's someone sitting out there going, but the brown ones are my favourite. Get rid of green.
I want to know, if your favourite colour is brown, I want to have a word with you. I do.
Not saying you're wrong.
What about
you saying you're wrong?
But you're going to have to go and have a word with the whole 70s then.
Oh, yeah, that's a very valid point.
Or pretty much every clothing store here in the town, now that they've got their autumn range out.
Yeah, good point. But, Tickets to Ride.
Yeah,
Pink
that's something you can play all year round. You don't need to wait till autumn to break out your brown trades, get the pink on the table, and support a worthy cause as well.
Yeah,
you're in for a very bad time free when the world goes nuclear and we all nuke the crap out of each other and everything turns brown.
Where the hell am I going to get anything lilac at that point? Jesus Christ.
Well, here's something I do wonder is, with this being like another complete set of the carriages for the game, could you just use it to up your player count by one and have some real mayhem in the game? Because that's all each player gets, is you've got your main deck of cards and then everybody gets their carriages. So you could use it to increase your player count by one.
Don't see why not. I can't think of anything else that you would need for Ticket to Ride to actually make it playable.
I don't see why it wouldn't. But
yeah, which could be fun.
But yeah.
Go. If you're sitting with a family of 6 and you only ever have 5 people playing Ticket to Ride, then, pick up the pink set, dump the brown on the youngest, and get stuck in. But wrapping things up for the news for this week, we have a bit of fantasy. No Ben, but we couldn't have a new segment without some dwarves.
He's here in spirit.
Yep. The infamous JT, or Jamie Tranter, to those who know him, has been showing off some work from Sergio Alonso Leon, who has been working on a range of classical style dwarves to be coming to Kickstarter early in 2022. So this has been a sort of a passion of Jamie's for a while now, to get a fantasy range in that Oldhammer style, all of his own, on the tabletop, and they are a set of feudal dwarves, so sort of medieval inspired, and in the main one-piece sculpts, or as few pieces as possible, so you may find a hand separately somewhere. I think there are 30 in the core range that he's aiming towards, if memory serves, and they include some weird and wacky things like the wizard you see there. There's also a dwarven jester doing a handstand on one hand, or a cartwheel,
cool.
depending on what way you want to sort of set him on his base. So there's a whole host coming, a lot of knights and also bowmen. I haven't seen any crossbow, but he did ask the community if they wanted to see some sort of cavalry-based troops as well. So there's a potential for stretch goals in the future.
Where are you seeing these extra stuff?
I see these because I'm on his face page,
right.
and he's been showing them off for a couple of months now. Over his birthday, he showed a few bits and pieces, but this gives you a good idea of what's going to be coming anyway. They're just going to go off to be painted up to get ready for the Kickstarter itself, and there's even a sneaky elf has crept its way in there. So I'm not sure if that's going to be a full line or if we're just going to get a couple of character models. Obviously, having knife ears lurking in around the lovely dwarves is a terrible thing. Maybe they'll be used for target practice in the main. It's difficult to say.
I like my dwarves how I like my fantasy, and that's whimsical. And I've just seen a dwarf wizard that was whimsical as anything, and that's amazing.
It reminds me an awful lot of Merlin from Sword and Stone.
Yeah, it is very Merlin-like. I agree.
It's one step away from bibbity-bobbity booing it.
I will say my favorite part from all of this, it's not the wizard, it's not the elf, it's not the knights, it's the dog.
Yeah, that's a happy little doggo. Look at his little face.
That is the happiest doggo I have seen in miniature ever. And he's being useful carrying his kit for his master.
Also,
Really
a small
nice.
amount of green stuff or even brown stuff, you could make a tiny little whippy to drop behind it.
Yeah, you could. I was looking at that going, he looks like he's nipping one off.
One out. Yep.
Like the winner of Crofts, the overall winner of Crofts one year. I think it was recently. Like last year or this year, I can't remember. But the overall winning dog, right at the end, as soon as they crowned it, the winner of Crofts popped out the biggest. It was a tiny little sausage dog, and half of it came out of itself.
I imagine it had been holding that in with the stress of not wanting to do anything to ruin its chances. Yeah. The minute it heard it, it was just like, oh,
I'm the winner.
But they take it away from me.
Relief,
They didn't cut away from it. They zoomed in on it coming out. I'm like, what are you doing?
There was one I got shown recently where it was a dog reversing up to a wall, dropping a deuce, sticking it to the wall, and walking off, and it just being stuck to the wall. Just this little nugget of poop.
Yeah,
like there though, haven't we?
You know what you've done there, Justin? You've taken this too far. Too far.
Anyway.
Speaking of that kind of shit. We're back at some 3D printing stuff as well.
I think we should, yes. So this week's 3D printing is Printed Obsession, which is a unusual collection of 3D files, I want to say. It sort of runs the gamut from D&D, which we were talking about earlier in the episode. So you can pick up monsters and characters for your encounters there, through to some more esoteric and weird and wacky things.
Where do we even start? Because there's like 374 entries here, Jerry. We just click? I'm just going to click something.
Yeah, well, you do you, Lloyd. Yeah, it wouldn't be you if you weren't just clicking. So here we see, very timely for upcoming October, some of the unusual Frankenstein-esque monsters.
Makes me want to watch Reanimator.
Oh, yeah, everybody loves a bit of Herbert West. But this is part of, there's a collection of these as well, where you have both the mad scientist and his creations, which includes things like reanimation vats, Tesla-coiled tentacled creatures,
nice,
creepy crawlies skirtling their way across the floor. It's just so bizarre. I mean, yes, having a Tesla coil in the back of half a dead body crawling across the floor is obviously par for the course. But then you see things like the tripod, which is just 3 human legs on a brass sphere with a couple of little coils powering it. You're going, well, at least it's never going to fall over.
Nah.
It's got that stability down. But you have to wonder about what exactly the scientist/sculptor was thinking when they went, you know what I need? I need 3 legs that can wander about by themselves. That is what I need in my life.
Who doesn't?
Or maybe that's just a way to keep them active and moving. You know, once you've got body parts and you start cutting and shutting, you don't want those other ones to decompose. So maybe that's the equivalent of an ear on the back of a mouse.
Yeah.
You just have these things wandering around your lab until you need them. Then you go and harvest a leg off it, which is a great way of doing things.
I'm looking at the hand, and it's kind of like Thing from the Addams Family.
I was thinking that.
Just like, yep. You just get bouncing up and down on the dance floor.
Only, you know, more scientifically accurate than Thing. You know, it has something to power it.
Yeah.
Not just a hand in a box. But you can see things like the Rakshasa there that you're hovering over for Dungeons and Dragons, and it's particularly good because
I love that.
they are spellcasters extraordinary. His hands folding in both directions. I can't remember how exactly they're supposed to go. Obviously, the one bouncing on his leg looks like it's facing in the wrong direction. Yeah, so that one's pretty spot on. The pipe smoking hand is a bit weird.
It looks like it's curled backwards.
Well, that's the joy of the Rakshasa. You never know when they're going to attack you, and when they do, because people are focusing on the hands facing the wrong direction, they're done for. But I love the fact that he's got him bouncing on his tail.
I love that. I really like how we're seeing more miniatures, especially I feel like more STLs and 3D printed miniatures have got different poses that are utilising that absent space. I feel like we see that more from 3D prints than we do released stuff from publishers.
It's generally because it's easier than when you're having to mold something, you're having to live with the ways that miniatures can be produced within a mold and how many pieces it will take, whereas 3D prints will generally, well, for miniatures anyway, you're generally doing it in one go.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about how these will actually fit together or how will I get these out of a mold that I'm making. So it's nice to see, and there's a whole host of things within there.
Look at this guy!
It's a fat little cat.
We're living on a mountaintop for 20 years.
Oh, that's the kind of thing you just like patronise by saying, I know that you're aggressive and stuff, but can I please blow raspberries on your belly? That's what he looks like to me. He's just gorgeous.
I don't know. You kind of just want to just rock into a fight, and it's just like your opponent's going to pull out a ball of string and just throw it, and he's just like,
yes. Yep, exactly.
If you jump onto page 5 in the objects there's some nice ones in there that I want to show off. Because again, you've got a sort of a classic D&D style stuff in here, but then you've also got some very Kingdom Death like bits and pieces.
The Witch of Ravenswood looks good. So
you have a Pumpkin Eye Terror, which make a great alternative beholder for a start. And you know,
that's great.
It seems to be coming towards Halloween at the moment. I don't know why.
Oh, I would have guessed. Yeah.
I know this is quite an old one, but also they have a range of the abominations, but essentially Naga, so sort of serpent, lower-limbed creatures coming towards you, and I really like the snake-like bottom part. It's probably coming back to like Clash of the Titans and old Ray Harryhausen films like that, where you see Medusa slurping towards you with an archer.
This straight from what is it? Jason and the Argonauts. Looks very Jason and the Argonauts-y.
Although I'm seeing an abyssal chicken on the homepage. Can we get a look at that?
An abyssal chicken?
Yeah, it's on the right-hand side.
Well, before we go away from that, see the Lady of Entropy, the very bottom one, Lloyd? Is one, because there are a whole host going throughout the range, I suppose, that they've put together here that have this unusual, almost Kingdom Death-like feel, where they're a lot more sleek and, I suppose, less characterful. That doesn't sound right. Less cartoonish, less caricatured in their builds, and you end up with things like this, where, I mean, I don't know what you're going to use it as in a game. She's a god, apparently.
Final boss.
The fact
An
that
RPG.
multiple heads are floating over her shoulders is particularly weird. And I just really like both the design aesthetic and just the unusual way it's been put together. It just speaks to me in a way that a lot of other sculpts don't.
I wonder if someone could actually create an AI deck for that for Kingdom Death Monster.
Oh, rock pangolin, that's adorable. Sorry, guys, I can't.
I don't know what I'm clicking on next. People keep saying things.
The abyssal chicken on the right.
Right, okay, here you go. This one.
See that? Yes.
Nice.
Because that's just cute.
You say they're cute, but in Tremors 3, we learned that they were particularly vicious when hunting in packs.
Yes.
And they're not a million miles away from those.
No, they're not.
I'm trying to remember what they were called. I want to say it was
I know. I remember what they were called. I'm not calling them it.
Oh, right, okay.
I've just seen there that you've obviously got the Mandalorian and the child there. So they've got fantasy miniatures as well. So they've got fantasy, and so could you use these in sci-fi as well? Yeah. Really cool.
That's an interesting one. And is there a price on that one? Because I'm imagining, because it is so clearly the Mando, that they can't charge or they get
just says download.
Yeah,
so I think it might be a freebie.
That's a free download.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And that's one of the nicest Mandalorians and child I've seen in a long time. It's Baby Yoda all the way.
On some painted pictures.
And presumably, even though that has been set up as a larger model, you could
print
it smaller.
Yeah, you can scale it up, scale it down, whatever you want.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Free download as well.
Who did that? Ralph Reed, I think.
Windigo's gorgeous.
Mm.
But I understand what you mean, Jerry. They're almost dark, not cartoon-like.
Yeah.
They've got that dark, gritty, pulpy theme to them. They're not Warcraft-like, as we see quite a lot of the stuff is. They are a lot of 3D printed stuff tends to be very.
But when you do hit some of the bits and pieces like the Rakshasa and things like that from essentially Dungeons and Dragons, they are more stylized, more the way I would expect them to be, based on the sort of the artwork and like you see over the years from Dungeons and Dragons, and then you occasionally get these unusual bits of work from the likes of the Lady of Entropy and that sort of thing, which are more sort of puts like they're more like the Kingdom Death with multiple limbs, the Eversor Warforged. I mean,
I'm seeing some cyberpunky stuff there. The Roller Girl. It looked quite cool.
Oh,
just where? Up a little bit on the right. Up a little bit on the right. There you go. So if you wanted to do some like cyberpunk gaming, that could be a fun one to play with.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Anything that will defeat her are stairs.
It's basically battle. What is it? Alita? Battle Alita? What's
battle
Angel
Princess thing. Yeah, Battle Angel. That one.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Which is surprisingly entertaining movie. I watched it. No, I click on. I could watch it on
Battle Grass. She won't go very far on grass either, Jerry.
No, that's true.
No,
keep a bag of sand in your pocket. You're fine.
This reminds me a bit of an old Xbox game when the first Xbox came out called Jet Set Radio.
Jet Set Radio.
Skating around a city, just tagging everything with a spray can.
Nice.
It was a really interesting, and it was a game that just came with the base console. It was a freebie.
That makes sense.
Oh, nice.
Unusual pig-headed Etienne.
Yes.
Which is a very different take from your usual two-headed hill giant. I quite like it.
Quite
menacing. Can't help but feel Bebop and Rocksteady would have been better. So one rhino for the other.
Yes.
Yeah, that would have been good.
We'll see a Splinter one soon. Just create a hybrid of all three. That'd be petrifying.
I'm just waiting for them to upload all of the turtles to YouTube like they've done for Transformers. Because you stuck up a link about that on Facebook and my life has disappeared. Done a Transformers-shaped hole since Hasbro stuck all of the Gen 1 cartoon on YouTube for free.
Done.
See, I'm always hunting down Mask.
Well, they do G.I. Joe. But they don't. I don't think they've done it as a series. But they do this live stream and stuff where you can watch loads of G.I. Joe.
So weird. So very weird. If you push yourself away from the 80s cartoon references and back to the printed obsession.
Oh, back to what we're supposed to be talking about.
That's the one.
Back on the rails.
If you can get your way to the sort of the earlier pages.
Back towards the beginning.
So, sorry, I mean, as in time-wise, so the very last page, which would have been the first stuff they put up, there's a whole host of...
Yeah, so click the double arrow.
Yep. There's a whole host of things in there.
This page is where you want to be on?
No.
The last one.
Oh, so they work the other way around.
Yeah, they go from most recent back to oldest. It's strange. They start off with jewelry. But if you go to page 13,
I genuinely wear all of that now.
You can see some of the other bits and pieces they've done.
Ooh.
And while it's really nice to have elementals and unusual Hellboy-like doggos, actually having Hellboy himself is a bit of a stinker.
Yeah, or Tracer.
Oh, that's nice.
Well done.
I mean, they've been on the platform since 2013, I think it is. And during that time, they've built up a hell of a catalogue. And it sort of seems to drift between large-scale sort of painting pieces and then smaller stuff that could be used for gaming.
It's interesting to click this far back because you can see all the stepping lines because the 3D printers just weren't up to the task at that point in time compared to what they are now.
I imagine the render will work beautifully on a resin printer now, where you won't have to worry about that.
See, that possibly was an older resin printer that just didn't have it in it. Could be crawling xenomorph. No, thank you.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I particularly liked, there was some stuff that I seen, I think it was on page 2. Oh, I need to do the full button. Page 2.
Yep. What's he done?
Oh, yeah, it was this creepy thing here. Look at this. Check this out. What are you going to do with that? Look at that.
It's holding it open. That's making me uneasy.
Last of Us. That's horrible and horrendous. Milo,
it looks like it's sneezing.
I've seen it. It is. It's spreading its spores and lovely goodness all over the place. I seen a film the other day called Forbidden Kingdom, which I think was written, directed, and filmed in the Ukraine. And they had a monster in it at one point that had eyelids that must have been about 2 meters long and hundreds of arms, and it lifted its eyelids way up so it could see, and the eye was made up of like 30 smaller eyes, and it was one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. Well worth watching. But that sort of madness there, it's very mythos-like. There's no discernible form or function within it. You're not looking at going, it's a man in rubber suits type of thing. They really have the strange contorted shape.
Creepiness.
They're desperate for kind of blood and bone paint scheme kind of thing. Those
nice goriness on it.
Yeah, as long as that thing doesn't sneeze on me, I'm fine.
Well, I've shot it free. It's away.
Gone.
Ta-da! Hey, pincushion baby things.
They're adorable. Look at them.
Well,
it's
technically
Nightmare Before Christmas.
You could make them gory as anything. Can you imagine putting it red down the side where their stitches are?
All of the cute. Have blood effect on them.
Yeah.
What is the point of me trying to find something cute if you're immediately going to gore it up?
They are very cute, but the skull at the front, yeah.
But look at this one. This one's even got a baby. There's a baby puppet.
That is a bit cute.
There's a little night puppet.
I know they're puppets, but aren't they technically? What's the dolls you called? What's the stabby
I keep
dolls?
thinking of the Cupid dolls, but they're not. But yeah, I know the ones you're talking about. Used for voodoo.
Voodoo dolls, yeah. That's what I'm guessing they are. Little tiny voodoo dolls.
Oh yeah, it explains all the pins.
So there's an app
into life, and I are going to take revenge on the voodoo priestess.
So this printed obsession place has an absolute.
Yeah.
See what I did?
One last thing. You don't see this. Oh, there's another one. Don't see this. Look at this. Magic carpets.
I love that.
Just
coming
imagine
for you.
Lloyd sitting there going,
That's really nice.
Oh, that's what I need from my saga army
Flying carpets.
to do my fantasy Arab army. That would be
Yep.
amazing.
That's brilliant.
It's a good way
I
of
like
doing
the
it.
fact that the one that's up has a little skull in the motif.
I think they both do.
Where? Oh, yeah.
they do.
I see that.
Yep.
I wonder
Yeah,
if they've got one somewhere in between that looks like mid-flight rather than it's come to life all by itself.
Just print the flat one and then hit it with a hairdryer.
Yeah, and just twisty twist.
Twist it before you cure
yeah.
it. Or let it, whatever.
That's a good idea. And then
Yeah.
just sort of twist a wee bit down at the front, a wee bit up at the back.
I was worried where you were going with the hairdryer. Just get a hairdryer. I thought, yeah, because that will make it move on the table, Jeff.
That too.
I went up to popularity there, and you can see all of the different ones, but really, really cool stuff.
Popularity. For us.
And it doesn't matter whether you're going for D&D or you fancy just painting something big for your tabletop or adding in some sort of strange boutique madness.
Yeah.
There is literally something for everyone there.
I've
Yeah.
just clicked your popularity section. There is all sorts of weird stuff going on.
There is different loads of weird stuff and everything. It was the popularity and the most liked I look at, so I see what ones are people downloading the most. But I saw the Mandalorian one in there.
There's the KDS singers are in there.
Jon Snow, you got Jon Snow bust down there if you fancy a bit of bust work. But bit of
Fabulous.
everything.
Right, well, loads of stuff. We could be spending all day looking at that.
Oh yeah.
We could,
Easy.
but we won't. We still have our Kickstarters to do.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
And first up this week, we're going to be looking at Ragnarök 2, The Quickening. And this is coming from Colin Patton, who I think we looked at the original Ragnarök Kickstarter for his fantasy dwarves. And in that, there was a little stretch goal for a small set of Draugr. I think it was a pack
Some
of
of these
8.
are in it.
But this time round, they're really fleshing out, no pun intended, the undead.
It's not a small set anymore. Where do you see this, peeps?
It
Look at
is
that.
amazingly big. So you can pick up the Living Dead for your fantasy games in a whole host of ways. I'm not saying it's been deliberately designed for Saga players, although if you are playing along at home, you can now take a drink. But there are specific pledges in here for Saga players, so a lot of it has been split up into 4-man or 8-man packs, so that you can build your Hearthguard, your warriors, your levy, and there's a whole host in there, starting with the very Nordic undead, moving through to your more typical Danax wielding berserkers, and they all have this halfway house where they are very historically accurate to a point, but then obviously tweaked into the undead, so they won't stand out if you're mixing them in with a current historical force. If you just want to add a bit of fantasy to your tabletop, if you want to run a whole thing, if you want to do the Kingdom of the Dead for Lord of the Rings, for example, you could do something ideal with these. But you've got your bowmen, you've got spears, hand weapons, and the big Danax wielders as well. And there's some terrific looking character models, especially when you get into the Hearthguard sort of sets, rocking a mixture of armor types and even a blasphemous looking, I'm going to say, priest of a sort, a pagan shaman.
What's his Facebook page for this? Because I have a feeling we'll get a better look at the minis on the Facebook page.
Facebook should just be Ragnarök.
That would be very lucky if they just got it to be
Memory
Facebook/Ragnarök.
Oh, I know, that would be very lucky. Some Norse fans out there waiting for that domain.
Ragnarök miniatures. That was so close. So very close.
So close. You missed a word.
Missed a word.
Shame on you. Although I will say, I do love the amount of variation that we're seeing there.
Let's see. Because I
Imagine
think
an army of undead draugrs.
If you just have a look at the photos to the left, Lloyd,
Ah, yeah.
that's a set we haven't even got to yet. Because not only are there the massive undead force, there are also supplemental dark elves
No.
or goblins, depending on your point of view. And yeah, as you can see, they are a wicked-looking bunch.
They're great.
So, could be a whole other force of your own, or you could use them for your levy, depending on how you're feeling.
I really dig in this range.
Goblins have to be cannon fodder.
I love. Oh, are you a fan of horse skulls or not, Lloyd?
I don't know. I never thought to think of.
Jerry taught me that there's one or the other. You either love them or you hate them.
I think I like them because I don't like horses themselves because I think they're too sweaty.
You don't mind them dead.
So a dead one's probably better.
Poor Tesco's lasagna.
I'm assuming like you subscribe to the Sherlock Holmes theory, they're dangerous at both ends and tricky in the middle.
Yeah, and I do tend to eat a bit of horse. I think there's horse and chorizo, and I eat that a lot. It's either horse or donkey, one of the two.
Chorizos, yeah, it must be something unnatural. Yeah,
I like eating them.
This has taken a very weird turn. Anyway,
they're gorgeous. Though I do agree with you with Lord of the Rings, though. They'd make a really nice Army of the Undead for Lord of the Rings. They're gorgeous.
Yeah, the variation that's in there is just the right amount. Everything's a little bit different on everybody.
I think I'm going to crack. I think I'm going to have to back this.
Oh, you do, yeah.
Do you think because they're undead who look like undead without bat wings and stuff?
Yes, I think I'm going to crack. Because I was keen on them. Oh, I think we've gone past them. We're into Charlie's everywhere.
You're into dwarves. Well, on the subject of the dwarves, the previous models from the last Kickstarter are available as add-ons in this one. So if you missed out on the dwarves, you can get them.
Down towards the bottom.
Yeah, which is interesting because you've now got a good/evil dwarf force you can pick up. The undead Draugr, and then there's also the dark elf, the goblin-y types. Plus, Colin has previously sculpted Vikings. He did them for his own Saxon miniatures range, which Warlord own now. So all of these models are the same size as the Vikings from Warlord.
Which is cool, because that's a range I particularly liked as well.
Yeah. Conqueror, he did dwarves for them in a Saxon style look. So now you've got some more that would add in a mix with those as well. So there's a couple of other ranges out there that these could be companions to or opponents of. And I absolutely adore the work he's done. They're nice. I have a set of the Vikings already. Actually, I got them years ago.
Already the older sets available as add-ons for the Kickstarter campaign?
No, because they're two different. Well, the dwarves from the last campaign are, but the other sets, the Vikings and other dwarves, belong to two other companies. But they're all
just in retail.
Oh yeah, you can just go to their websites and pick them up to add them in. But it's a fantastic looking set. The dark elves in particular, I really like the goblin look to them.
Yeah, I do.
I like
these guys here.
Yeah, you've got armored and naked and robed versions, which leans in more to how they're portrayed in the Edda. So, proper dark elves.
Looking feral, yeah.
Yeah, not looking like uppity elves swanning around the place, looking like, pitch black skinned scum lurking around in the dark, mining away.
Yeah.
Which is what I want my dark elves to be.
The elf world who are just rebelling against mummy and daddy.
Yeah, and here's some berserkers for you, Justin, because there's no Charlies anywhere to be seen.
At least these have all got nappies on, I suppose. I don't know how historically accurate that is.
Yeah.
Nappies. But there you go.
Got to put in a little bit of a wind block there. Come on.
Oh, wow.
It's one way of doing it. But looking at the Kickstarter, then there are multiple packs. So we have, as you can see, there are nappy wearing, humiliated, the outlawed, and the betrayers. So sort of 4-man packs for your elites / I think those would probably still be better as levy, the betrayers, but depends what you're using your Saga Force for. Then after that, we have some of the sort of companion packs. So things like the banner bearers are available, and a really nice set of characters, which means you can make your warlord and your priest up as well for Saga.
Nice.
Banner bearer.
I mean, I will say, severely tempting, this one.
Yep.
Oh, we've got 2 out of 4 so far.
And then after that, you hit the big main pack. So there are 5 packs. Each one is a sort of an 8-man group with a similar style of weaponry or armor. So the dishonored, the doomed, the shameful, the treacherous, and the ill-favored. So, it's a hefty chunk. If you get one of each of those sets, that's pretty much a Saga Force done and dusted. Obviously, you can't get a specific Saga Force in there. But they all break down into sort of heavily armored or medium armored.
So if you've got your all of these, then you've got a cracking Saga Force then.
Yeah.
You've got like 8 points or something, don't you? Probably.
Yeah, easily. Some of those bigger forces may be able to be split down into Hearthguard as well, so you could have a couple of different ones. But you can even just run them as Vikings in Saga.
That's what I do.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there a suitable battle board that you would recommend, Jerry, having played it?
Oh yeah. Well, Viking, they fit straight into the Viking battle board, including Berserkers as options. If you're going to play Saga with the Age of Magic, then Undead is obviously the way to go. You just have to find yourself some sort of big nasty monsters as well to tack into there. I'm sure there's plenty of unusual Viking-esque things. I'm
sorely tempted because you can paint them up in that dead fashion of, basically I can spray them dark and dry brush them. They're ethereal, ghosty looking jobbies. And hey, presto, you've got a Saga army. I could probably get this Saga army up and running quicker than I'll have the Saga army I've been working on for the last 4 years.
Yep. Just go and stick on the Huntress in the background, which is a really nice, I think it's a Swedish film, which features a load of Draugr in it. Spoilers, by the way, if you haven't seen it. But,
if I was painting these up, I'd just have some Scald playing in the background.
You could do.
My resolve is weak. My resolve is very weak because I was having a look at the pledges.
Yeah.
I was just waiting to see Lloyd back it.
I was looking at this one 150 and I was like, but then I thought, I don't actually want the dwarves. I basically want, not that I don't like the dwarves, but I want everything except the dwarves. So I'm thinking it must be this one at about 85 quid.
Yeah, well, that's the host.
That's not bad.
A 4-point Saga Warband is £35.
Oh, maybe I'm gilding the lily too much then.
So
yeah,
the host will get you substantially more that you can sort of sit down and look at. And there's also some packs there as well for people who aren't playing Saga but want large units. So it'll be 28-man sort of packs for large mass battle games if you want to play that way.
There's your Saga Warband pledge.
Large Saga Warband.
Yeah.
52 quid. That's not too bad. I kind of like the look of this one because it says the entire 63 figure.
Yeah. So that's the one that's been backed the most. That's had the most backers on that one.
Advertised.
Why would you not?
No, exactly. It's worth doing that one.
Right in there.
I want it all playing in the back of my head.
How are they doing back on my? Otherwise, because they're more than double what they were looking for to begin with. So
yeah, that and the delivery looks to be around May time next year. That's not horrendous to wait.
No,
it's not. And if the last one is anything to go by, they fulfilled that earlier than expected.
That's good.
In fact, I think the first one was only supposed to be fulfilled this month or maybe next month, but people got their stuff about 6 weeks ago. So yeah, Colin's an old hand at sculpting. They know what they're doing. They've already done one successfully. So hopefully Ragnarök 2 will go down just as well.
And if you're wondering why I haven't clicked the video, it's because it's just us.
I mean,
having a chinwag.
It looks hauntingly familiar.
I mean, Inception or what? Oh. We've traded out the bed. Oh my God, you've both got a red top on.
You are creeping me out. Anyway, yeah, that is Ragnarök 2.
Yeah.
And there is 32 days left to go on that one. If you want to jump on board and get yourself some Saga goodness, then you can definitely do that. But
might have to ask permission.
It's always better to ask forgiveness than permission. You know that.
And after that section, if you are playing along and you have been drinking, in that section, you most probably are on the floor. The amount of times Jerry said Saga.
It hasn't. Actually, I get away with buying whatever I want these days because I went down to the bank and me and Anna got put onto dual accounts, right? And now the bank sends me everything the transaction that goes out of my account and her account and sends her nothing. And I'm like, what has happened here?
I am the
You know everything.
I know everything.
Say nothing. Casual.
And she's like, that was my account. I know your name's at the start and you get notifications about everything.
Sorry.
Oh, man. She'll never be able to, surprise you with like a nice roast dinner or something when you're coming home ever again, because you're just like, oh, that's what we're having for dinner tonight. Yeah.
No, the best thing to Lloyd Low is if she makes a really big purchase and you say, well, I can buy this army now because I know that you've bought this. So
Yeah, but I'm also quite lazy at tracking it, so she could probably get away with something. Yeah.
Way of doing it. Shall we round out the show with one more Kickstarter then?
Indeed.
Sure.
And this one is The Dragon's Forge. So it's a STL file building place. You're not actually getting STLs. Well, you can get STLs, but this Kickstarter is to build the architecture for their website. So they've decided to go with a interesting miniature building platform. It's not the same as Hero Forge, where you have a untold options. You stick them in and start twisting stuff. Yep. What they've done is they've got sculptors to sculpt miniatures, but then sculpt a ton of options with them specifically for that miniature. So everything is scaled and styled in the way to sort of accentuate that miniature.
Yeah.
But they put it together that you wouldn't be able to, well, you could, but the cost would be prohibitive to supply a miniature with 20 heads and several hundred arms or whatever it happens to be. So in this case, you can go in and put together what your ideal sculpt would be, and then can either pick up the STLs or pick up miniatures printed at 3 different levels on 3 different printers, which they have all sitting ready to rock in Wales.
Which I like. I like that approach because it means you can put a force together of a variety of miniatures that ties together. Whereas if you try to do it in the Hero Forge, you're off either making very similar looking models because you run out of options too quickly, if you know what I mean, to have them look similar but different.
You'd have to either save over something in Hero Forge, I presume, save something and edit it and tweak it, or start again.
I think one of the things it is it's allowing the sculpts to be more like a traditional sculpt that you would buy. It doesn't have the modularity of pose that Hero Forge has, but because everything is designed to work with the models, you don't have weird clipping and print issues, because that would print whatever way you put it together, because all the parts are designed to go on that model in that place. So you can be more assured of getting a miniature that looks like they should be standing with that weapon in that orientation, whatever happens to be.
I wonder how much variety you get, though, because looking at this, right, if this is the minis, if this is the starting set, for example, then I'm not really going to build a warband out of it, possibly, because there's all individuals. But I wonder how much difference can you get in this one, for example, to try and get 4 different looking archers, but based off of the same model? Is there enough?
Yeah,
it's hard to tell at this point because it's not
multiple. You've multiple poses for. At the moment, there are 5 types, and each of them has a male and female version. So there are 10 in the current set, and then each of those, when you go in, will have a selection of options for a pose. So I think there are 3 or 4 poses for each one. And then within that, then there are specific arms and accoutrement that only go on that pose. So if you pick a specific pose, like somebody's jumping or somebody's flying or they're standing on the ground, then the arms will be made for that sculpt. So you're putting together something like a master model, essentially. Without going in and
your favorite parts.
Yeah. So you may find that sword arms are slightly adjusted because they would look incorrect on a model that is standing flat as opposed to one that is moving more dynamically. So they may still have the same sword and same thrusting pose, or, well, arm position, but the arm itself will be uniquely sculpted for that. So this is to get the sort of the architecture together to launch this. I think they're hoping to launch in March next year, although they already have things like the sculpting for the base sets that they have is done. The printers are already on site, so this is to get the mechanics ready to launch the website and app in itself.
So it's not a case of you download these STLs. Do you still send off? Can you download the STLs and print them yourself?
Yeah. So the Kickstarter, the funding will give you, they call them ingots. Essentially, it's credit for their online store. And then you can use those to either get yourself STLs, and you can see there. So 5 STL files, 2 standard prints or 1 premium print would cost you about 20 quid. And they've listed the machines they're printing on as well. So the master prints, which would be the ones that companies would use to actually get master copies before they produce molds from them, is I think like a 4K resolution resin printer. So they actually show the 3 different print types, and you've seen some of them in the videos as well. At the sort of basic level is an Elegoo Mars, I think, and then it works up from there. But they've worked on the principle that this will get the architecture and the website ready, and then after that add to what they're going to launch with initially. So they have stretch goals sort of in 2 tiers almost, where some of it is unlocking new designs for the website, and then other things will give you more credit for the app when it launches.
So this pretty much clears up my question here. So you can buy the STLs for those ingots, then you can get that standard print quality, and you get the premium print quality, and you get the master print quality. And I think somewhere in the video they were saying they were doing this in partnership with I think it's Firestorm Games.
Firestorm, yeah.
So they're going to take care of the actual posting of these things out to people.
Yeah, which means they've got
shipping costs are a flat rate.
Yeah, which is nice, because in these uncertain times you're going to be perfectly sure what way things are going to work out. But it's nice that they've got the structure there that they can just fire this into their pick and pack and send it on its way to you. But I really like things like the Dragora Kai, I'm going to say it is. So it's like some sort of dragonkin. I quite like not the female one, but the male one, who just looks like he's going back nuts, screaming to the heavens. You'll see he's a bit further down below the halflings.
What are you talking about? Oh, Ben would love that dwarf. I have to say that on behalf of Ben, because he's not here saying how much he loves the dwarf. So
yeah, maybe you could get a range of at least 4 or something out of this, because Hero Forge is very much based around getting your own. This is my own D&D miniature type thing, rather than making groups of minis. It'll be nice to see if this can be something I could twist into. I want 4 dwarves. Can I use this base model? Because it looks like there's quite a combination of stuff. Hundreds of custom parts and thousands of combinations.
Yeah.
Well, when you add in things like, even if the base armor, I suppose, is the same, or the base sculpt is the same, because they've got 2 or 3 various poses and then all the various arms and armament to give them. If you think about most commercial units, squads, blister packs, whatever you want to call them, in most cases they're only working from 3 or 4 body types, and then you'll have those sort of repeating. In this one, you'd be doing pretty much the same thing if you think of them like dollies that you're putting together. You can see there some of the other bits and pieces they're planning on doing, including that massive demon painting the little dwarf with the hammer over his shoulders. So I'm assuming that's Ben in demon form.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. That's where he is this week.
There was somewhere along this I was scrolling, and I think I saw a dwarf with a miniature of himself on his helmet.
Could be. If you keep going down, you'll see there you go. So there's the caster and the 3 different poses.
Okay.
That they have. I think, like I said,
it's your dwarf one.
Again, there's the dwarf.
There we go. Yeah.
With 3 different poses. So it wouldn't take much to make units in some fashion, up to and including, pig riding calf.
Because although it's fun and whatnot in Hero Forge to sit and go, I'm going to move the head this way, I'm going to move the head that way. I'm not sure if that's in here, but I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't in here, because it means that they've got more control over making sure all these bits and pieces fit together.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I think I prefer it that way. I've put some limitations in so as I can just quickly go, like this, and this, and this, and this. And I'm not spending all day farting around with something. I'd rather just clip it together as like a virtual, it's virtual sprue, I suppose, at that point, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Because you've got all your different, that's literally how I saw it. You have a sprue with all your different types of heads, all your different types of weapons, all your different, but it's virtual. That's exactly how I
You
saw
don't have to worry about only having one of them in the box.
No, and losing it.
And that's exactly it. You don't have the orientation fiddling that you have with Hero Forge, because they've sacrificed that to make the sculpts as close to physical created sculpts, I suppose.
Yes,
as
but
they can.
And when you say sacrificed, I don't think it is necessarily a sacrifice. It's a different way of doing it.
Yeah.
But what it's going to allow them to do is make sure that they can do more intricate stuff. Because Hero Forge limits what it can do a little bit, because it's in a fashion where it says, well, this has to be able to move and this has to be able to do that. And that'll limit the amount of sculpting and whatnot they can do on particular bits. Whereas this, so they put a few, what's the word I'm looking for? A few limitations in. They can go, right, well, we know what we're working to make sure that this sculpt looks good and works with these bits.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way you're going to be able to see it, but there's clipping where part of his gauntlet is coming through the front of his shield.
There's a Hero Forge one, is it?
Yeah, simply because the orientation I chose on it. And it didn't matter how I twisted and turned things, there was still always a bit of his gauntlet sticking through. And there's no way to sort of scrub that bit out. They've chose to essentially manufacture an STL sprue so that all of the bits will always fit. You can't mess it up, which is important when you're paying what could be an awful lot of money if you're going for a high quality master quality print, 4K print, which would be the equivalent of getting a master sculpt done. So at that point, you don't want unusual clipping or strange orientation of parts.
You want to know that it's just going to work, especially if you're going to go in and go, well, I'm going to make myself a unit here. You're not ordering one miniature, you're ordering like a bunch.
Yeah, and depending on how big you want to make that unit, if you do grab your STLs, you can bring out multiples of the same person. Because you do get that in like regular units across the industry.
Yeah,
unit
fillers.
Yeah, and so if you design one of your guys to be, you are Mr. Bog Standard, you're Mr. Windy Wind, don't really care about you. You look great, you work perfectly. Here's a couple of nice extra hero-y guys, so it doesn't like blow out of proportion where everybody has to be individual.
They are aiming, like I said, to have this up and running for March, with the initial backers sort of getting first run at it. But they're not resting on their laurels, so depending on what they unlock here, obviously that's what the site will go live with. But they're planning on adding sort of 10 new kits or 10 new models every month.
Well, what? Wow.
Yep. So as long as people are interested and people are going to back them and get in there, there is definitely room for aggressive expansion, I have to say.
Aggressive
expansion.
Let's see how they're going on. Dragon's Forge miniature. And they're at 2,000 at the minute. So they're just under halfway funded.
Yeah. And at the time of filming, they launched this 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
5 hours ago, something like that. So, there's 29 days left by the time you see this. I imagine by the time you see this, they'll probably be funded as well. And
I'd say so,
to batter down some of the stretch goals that they've got in there.
Yeah.
Cool. And it's an in-browser app as well. It's not a separate app running, just run it in your browser. Very similar to Hero Forge. Think Hero Forge then with the ability to just go click, 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 and without all the posing.
It's just a digital sprue.
Yeah, digital sprue. Right. That's cool. I like that a lot. Is that us? Have we finished?
That wraps us up for this week.
Hey.
Remember, if you want to be able the chance to win Kill Team Octarius, you need to be a subscriber to our YouTube channel. So go and do that now.
We're getting very, very close.
There.
Very close.
So close.
A little more, guys.
And if you fancy spending more time with us this weekend, and let's face it, who wouldn't, you can come over to OnTableTop.com and join us for the XLBS on Sunday morning, where we waffle about all things hobby, yours and ours. If you're not a member of the Cult of Games, you can get a 30-day trial for free, gratis. It'll cost you nothing. Just sign up and browse away. Otherwise, we will see you again next Friday. So until then, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.